It is Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. I'm Grantham Taylor Hughes for my show, The Grantham Taylor Hughes Show, or Dr. Grantham Taylor Hughes, whichever. You can call me Hey You if you want to. And I'm the only person in the world that has four hyphens in my last name. Did you know that, Lena? I'm the only one that
Yeah.
has four hyphens in my last name. You know what
Mhm.
it is, right? Get out of the way. Hey, you get out of the way. Anyways, I'm going to welcome my co-host. Sorry, Lena, I didn't introduce you properly. Lena Suzanne, how are you? Lena Suzanne Smith, or Z.
Oh, I'm fine, thanks. How are you, Grantham?
I'm just fine. I'm trying to warm up here, warming up. And so what I was going to go into today was we've talked a lot about the Sri Yantra, but there's more details to it. But then it's over and above really the 9 minutes. But people, as I said, people are entitled to the truth. You're entitled to information. So I'm not going to I don't hold back any information unless it's personal things like I ice skate in the summertime up in the Palisades in a winter garden. And, just anyway, so silly stuff. Anyway, so the idea that over and above just the general the 9 minute viewing, the first instructions for the first 9 minutes, as I've said before, is a 9 minute viewing of the yantra. Okay, now, okay, we're going to bring that up. Okay, well, for a minute because then I'm going to show you these. So that yantra is we look in the center for 9 minutes and try to not think about things, or it's just a pure observation. But as I said before, you'll think about things, but don't be concerned about it. But just try to put your attention on the central circle in the middle for 9 minutes. Okay. Now over and above that, I'm going to talk about this and those triangulations there are your geometric progression of your own physical body is the geometry of your physical body, the mathematics, the precision of the inside of your body. When they do autopsies, they open up the skull. When they open up the skull, there's the inside is you have mother of pearl, like the mother of pearl of a shell, and it's all very geometric. So the body's an intricate geometric progression, and they divined in ancient history that those progressions are those triangulations within the yantra. So that's really, again, the geometric progression of your physical body. Okay, you can take it down now because I'm going to show these. Now, what I'm going to show you here is a kind of a fleshed out yantra, where where you saw that flat two-dimensional yantra. This is a three-dimensional yantra. If I can get my fingers out of the way to hold it from the back. So that's actually the yantra. When you look at it this way, is the yantra on the paper. That would be the two-dimensional picture you're looking at. But when you show it this way, it's a three-dimensional yantra called the Mariprusta Bindu. Now what happens in the Far East, excuse me, and what I've said before that they use this in the in Eastern philosophy, Eastern teachings like Hindu religion, but it really isn't religious. It's just geometry, ancient geometry. It goes back even farther than the Hindu path, but they adapted it to their teaching. So don't get confused by this being their teaching. But anyway, what they do with these yantras, these are gold yantras, very expensive yantras, that they sell them in the Far East after they give you a preliminary definition of yantra work. They say, well, it's a wealth instrument, but they don't go into the details. So today I'm going to go into some extensive details, but again, it's over and above the 9 minutes. But you see, I'm saying that once you use this instrument, like there's that would be the two-dimensional one we were looking at if it wasn't three-dimensional this way. What we're looking at is over and above the 9 minutes because people will okay, in other words, when you gain financial independence or your empire through the yantra, people are going to have a lot of time on their hands. You see, you're going to have extra 8 hours per day. So then what do you do with that? Well, you might want to add another 9 minutes onto in what I'm discussing because the reason why I'm going to talk about this because it's the truth about there's five levels of the yantra work. Okay, now I'm going to show another one next to it to show you what goes on in terms of our viewpoints. remember we were talking about. So we have two of these. We have like two triangulations. You can see when they come together like that, there's like two triangulations towards each other. Okay, now this is how we view things. Like, in other words, if we're viewing things from this side over here, like if we're viewing this, okay, we'll do it this way. See now when we're viewing the yantra in the middle, our viewpoint is coming from this triangulation on this side, on this side. We're seeing. Let me hold it this way. It's kind of I haven't done this before, so it's kind of okay. I'll just hold it this way for a minute. So in other words, we're looking from this side of the yantra. Okay, our viewpoint's going this way and looking towards the yantra in the middle. Okay. So that means when we're looking at the two-dimensional one this way in the middle, we're looking at it this way from our viewpoints to the middle. Okay. So now the reason why I show this, you have to appreciate by showing the demonstration of this manifest yantra, even though it sounds complex in terms of what I'm talking about, at least I'm showing you a manifestation of it. Because if I was talking about it without that, then it would be really difficult to understand. So anyway, so this fleshed out yantra, we're looking in the middle of the bindu again. It means that when we look at something, even in our daily life, I won't confuse it for a minute, but I'll bring it back to illustrate when we look at anything in our lives today with our eyes, and you're looking at it from the eyesight. Let's say you're looking at a doorknob, for example, because it's an idea of a circular, like similar to a bindu type thing, but it might be spheroidal or oblong. Anyway, so we're looking at a doorknob, let's say. Okay, and so we're looking at it maybe from 5 feet away. Okay, when you see that doorknob, your eyes are focused on the doorknob. But if you move your physical body towards the doorknob, in other words, if you move towards the bindu, if you move towards it with your body, if you move towards it this way, what happens is the triangulation of your eyesight goes towards the doorknob, and when you get very close to it, it's actually turning into a bindu on the other side. It's turning into this on the other side. Okay, in other words, it goes out and triangulates this way. But you have to if you do it in practice, try this out, everybody, because if you move towards the knob with your eyes, if you move close to it with your eyes like this, if you move towards it, you'll find that there'll be a triangulation of the focus that you're doing and that's called a reverse divergence. Okay, now we talk about a divergence convergence. But this would be a reverse divergence. It's sort of like crossing over like this and reverses itself to get to the sun or get to the planets out there. So that's why they can't really go there because they don't have this methodology. You have to have the proper methodology of seeing. See, when we see things, and I'm explaining how we see things in our lives by it's called a I coined the word even yesterday. I wrote it down. Rev divergence, rev divergence. Rev divergence is a reverse divergence. Now that sounds really complex, but see that's why we'll repeat things in the future. But when you really get this, it's pretty simple because we have divergence convergence. And the reason why I just bring it up because it's the truth. I wouldn't bring it up if it wasn't the truth in the matter of how we see. But who goes into this? I've never heard of this before, people talking about it, but it has to do with the yantra work in depth in the past in ancient history. But now what do? They say, well, it's a wealth instrument, you'll get rich. And then they go, and by the way, this is $10,000. They start selling you stuff. See, they give you little information. Then and see this yantra. This is $10,000. It's gold, and this will help you get extremely rich. But I'm going to get rich getting your $10,000 selling this to you. You see what I mean? So the gig really is they're not really telling you extensive information about the yantra, which is very incredibly important. Excuse me, but
So,
then I guess go ahead, please.
sorry to interrupt. So Grantham is the rev divergence different from convergence?
Yeah, rev divergence is a reverse divergence once you get past the bindu. Like when you're talking about yourself, like you go past the bindu, but what your eyes are doing is a reverse divergence. Instead of the original convergence divergence, which is omnivergence to see the bindu in the middle. Once you go past that, past that bindu, you see in your imagination, or you're actually it's an observation, you're doing a reverse divergence that goes to any sort of obstacle or it's anything you see physically. There's a reverse divergence when you see, like we were talking about the doorknob, and you move your physical eyes towards it. If you move towards it, if you stood back from it, you're still doing a rev divergence. Okay, excuse me. And the reason I say that is because when we do the divergence, and there's two portals that open up in front of us. That's why in ancient times they did a convergence to see one portal in front of us. We can go back to the preliminary information with that. In order to see our world in front of us, we're in a convergence where you have two eyes, and those eyes are converging two pictures in front of you. And that's why we're talking about this, is because the divergence is now a natural state of your eyesight. Like we have two eyes, so in reality, they should be looking straight ahead, and then you see two worlds. But remember, we said in the past that got to be very confusion. It's a gerund, confusing. That got to be very confusing for everyone because as soon as you saw two worlds and you stepped into it or you moved into it with your eyesight, because it's really a focusing on either the left or the right side, what would happen is two more windows would open up. You see, because you're still in a divergency. But then they would recommend to go in like this would be this side, I'm pointing, this side would be the right side. They would recommend to go into the right side with your eyesight or your physical body. You'd go into the right side, but as soon as you went into one, it would open up again into two more portals. So there was a lot of confusion with that. And nowadays, they would call that a psychotic break because you're duplicating a singular life, right? A convergent life. So what happens over a long period of time, it took them quite a while to sort out the fact that they needed to converge the divergency, the two pictures, in order to make it easier to negotiate a singular world than to be constantly negotiating two worlds or being confused with the left and right side and going into a negative world or a positive world. So now you have
Mm.
the polarities superimposed on each other. We have the negative and the positive that are superimposed on each other, and you don't really know where the negativity is. And they have there's a teaching called Scientology that people are very aware of, and there's a lot of other teachings. They talk about a tone scale practice that when you have a thought that's bothering you, which is just really some imagery on the inside that you haven't sorted out. Something happened in your world and you were confused by it, so then you internalize it into your mind stuff, and there's an image there. So what they taught was to diverge the thought in your mind, like diverge it into two pictures. You got to appreciate the fact this practice was to be able to, your essence will see the negativity in the image, and then once you separate the two, it'll see it automatically. You don't necessarily have to know it, but your essence of your individual as truth will see the problem, and then what they said was to spin it down and then the problem would go away. But we recommend to spin it into your bindu because you need your negativity because that's the dark side of your life. You have the dark and the white, the left and the right side is a polarity. So you need that darkness to create a contrast. Anyway, so you have any questions there? Because I'm going to waffle on for the whole half hour if not, right?
Mhm.
So get in there and oraculate.
It just occurred to me that, you were saying that there was a lot of confusion because every time they stepped into a portal, it opened up into another two. But couldn't they have just always chosen the right-hand side and just kept on choosing the right-hand side?
Well, the problem is they didn't have convergence at that time, so there's no concept. Remember how we said when we wax a concept, we automatically utilize it because that's in our creation. So when you didn't have the concept, then it wouldn't maintain. See, it doesn't. Things don't happen just because we. Uh, it's not necessarily just a practice. Let's put it that way. There is a mystery in terms of not knowing something, but we know stuff on the inside, but we don't know stuff on the outside. We know stuff inside, but we don't know things exoterically. We don't know with our eyes open, we don't know things. So that's why, especially since we have auxiliary country logic, now we have to understand the logic patterns. Like for now, people might be struggling with the video today in terms of what are you talking about? And by the way, hold it. I have to do my sales pitch. By the way, we need our videos to go viral. We're trying to raise a lot of money for my institute, the Omnivergence Institute. So please send in your cash and your checks and your money orders
No.
to us, or not, none of that, right? But anyway, so the idea is, I'm not going to beg you, of course, because you know that I don't beg people. Oh, please, please send in your money. Oh, anyway, okay, that's my appeal that we do every time, and which is kind of funny. You laughed, I see, so it is funny, right?
Yeah, but I just want to clarify, we're not asking for money. We're just asking for subscribers. So
Oh,
please
that's right.
subscribe.
Oh, that's right. Just subscribe. And then the subscriptions lead to advertising and YouTube pays us the money. Okay, I got that straight. Thank you for correcting me. But anyway, so but basically it is, we're trying to get money here, and the truth be known, I could just tell jokes or sing songs for a half hour, but we're putting in our time. But I'm trying to give you some information that is over and above what they give you in the basic concepts of the yantra. So to further discuss that, did you have any questions? Talk to me.
Uh,
Talk to me.
yeah,
Talk to
yeah,
me.
yeah. I just wanted to, you mentioned if we have negative picture files, or what did you call them? Negative images,
Mhm.
things that are
Mhm.
bothering us, we can spin them into the Bindu. So that's
Correct.
another practice on top of the 9 minutes.
Yeah, because the first 9 minutes should be just as the instructions go, 9 minute viewing only, and the rest of it is extraneous. I mean, you'll be thinking, and your inside will be churning on things and what have you. Don't worry about that. Try to maintain your focus on the Bindu because it'll correct any type of attention disorders, just like autistic people by using the mantra will stop being autistic. That the truth be known, and not only is a wealth instrument, but it'll fix any mental disorders. Mental disorders are really mostly just a focus with your eyesight. You're focusing your eyesight because a lot of times if I look into your eyes. Most people look to the left and the right side. I was talking to an autistic person the other day because I used to work with them when I was in the Army Reserve years ago. I used to work in the medical field. I was a 91B20 or a nurse's assistant. So I worked with a lot of autistic people, and I taught them how to focus their eyes. If they look into another person's eyes, then they won't have the issues with autism because it's really they're sort of outside of themselves, so to speak, and they're not focused. So I helped a lot of people with that, even though it's not really an established methodology in allopathic medicine. Me personally, I help them a lot. So autistic people really like me because I help them a great deal to focus. So the answer will help them too. It'll help mental disorders because mental disorders are really a problem with focusing your eyes when you get right down to it. Plus, at the same time, it's your creation. Anyway, so right. So does that help a little bit in terms of that discussion?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're
Yeah.
welcome. You can leave now.
All right.
Oh, no, I did
Thanks a
instead.
lot. See,
I
see,
left.
see you next time.
See me next time. I left. All of a sudden, I disappeared. Well, do you cut that out in the editing when the disappearances?
I can, if you would you like me to?
No, no, it's funny though. I think it's funny.
Keep it
I
up.
I I said goodbye to you, but I left. You see me? Oh, you were talking to yourself because we were always talking about the mirror. I said goodbye, so I left, right? Instead of the right, I went to the left. Anyway, O- okay. So you were talking about something there. Go ahead.
What was I talking about? I can't remember. What other levels do you have then to the yantra work?
Okay, good. That's I wanted to get into that. I'm glad you asked that question. Okay, I wrote them down because even though I know enough, this will be reversed on the picture, but I'll show you how I wrote them down. Can you see that? And I'll back up because mine's foggy. You can't really. Can't really
Mm.
see that, right?
No, I can't really see that.
You
No.
can't see it, right? Well, there is some writing there. Trust me. Okay. So I mean, what happens is when we talked about rev diversions, I guess it's a new word. It's a neologism. It would be REVDIVERGENCE, rev divergence, redivergence or rev divergence. Okay, just it's rev divergence to any other place that you're going through the yantra. I put rev divergence to the sun. All right, now because we say that the sun is really a portal and not a ball of fire. It's like a doorway to higher dimensions, which I don't really know that much about because I haven't done that, but it's a theoretical process. All right, so the convergence stages when you're looking at the Bindu, okay, which number one would be the Bindu on my list here. Number one is Bindu, and that's a little circle in the middle. And then number two would be, I wish I could show this. Let me see if I can get it clearer. Oh, there's clear. There it's clear now. Okay, now number two would be, now see how that diamond is in the middle of those two hourglasses?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's number two. That's called the diamond of health. Diamond of health. And what that is when you're looking at the Bindu and you do a convergence on the yantra, what happens is the diamonds created by the two outer half diamonds on the peripheral of the Bindu. So when you converge it even further, then what happens is that, like I was talking about, a rev divergence takes place, and then you'll see two Bindus. Now this sounds really complex. I apologize, but we'll repeat it over and over again because it's really easy in practice. Like when you're looking at the Bindu and then you separate the two bindus into two, you'll see this pristine white diamond in the middle. It's really beautiful. So when you get to that helps your health. It's called the diamond of health. This is an ancient concept
Mhm.
I was taught. I was taught this by my Lama teachers, by the way. All this discussion it's not really my creation. They taught this to me. So when you see this pristine diamond of health, you heal yourself with your brine, and your body's like a body brine factory. I want to talk about that too, because we're creating brine all the time. Oh, I like that. That's poetry. Thank you. We're creating we're creating brine all the time, but not exactly because it's an N in brine and time has the M, but it sounds very. It would be assonance. Assonance means poetry that doesn't rhyme, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, so now the third one there, you see the third one, the hourglass, the black hourglass?
Hmm.
Okay, see now if you look at the previous one, the diamond of health, and if you were to converge the diamond, what do you have? Well, you have the hourglass of immortality. Okay, so that hourglass of immortality, because you're converging this previous step. It's a rev divergence. You're converging further and creating the hourglass are just drawing those two previous hourglasses together in the middle, and that's called the hourglass of immortality. Okay, so when you look at that, you're experiencing immortality or practicing immortality. Okay, now the fourth one you might not be able to see that very well. Okay, it would be right there. Okay,
Mm.
around this on the yantra that we show, there are like these little circles in the yantra. We'll show it in a minute ago. We'll show the circles. There's those tiny little circles. So when you further diverge and then the hourglass disappears, then there becomes this little cocoon. It's hard to see it on my picture here. Yeah, you can see it a little bit better there. There's like a little cocoon, and that's called the cocoon of wealth. When you further diverge and the hourglass disappears, this is in your eyesight, you see it, you'll see this little cocoon that's called the cocoon of wealth. So when you
Hmm.
get to that, you're experiencing a very powerful wealth uh, coming to you in terms of what's that law of attracting to? It's not really the law of attraction, but attraction by increasing your focus. That's how the perpetual law of increase. Okay, now the fifth level down there at the bottom, so you see that now it turns into two circles that separate. Now some people can just separate the two immediately. It depends on how your skills. But this is the methodology that takes place, and if you do each step, you'll experience each step. All right, now I have an arrow there, like there's two circles. The next level of convergence separates the yantra into two, okay, which I've never been able to do, but I know people have done it. I remember I told you about the two people that said that they actually did this in an emergency situation, and then when they did a reconvergence, they were about 100 yards ahead of themselves. They closed their
So,
eyes. Yes, go ahead.
so in this stage, number five, you're not talking about separating the bindu into two. You're talking about separating the
The whole
whole
yantra
yantra.
separate. The
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
yantra separates. Okay,
Mm.
and now and see what this is really the bottom part is. Let me see what I have here. Okay, I put in rev divergence, and I was showing the two yantras touching each other. Okay, now the point of the separation of the two yantras is that now what happens is that that should be able you should be able to if you do this and it turns into it might be a kaleidoscope, not a kaleidoscope, but a telescoping of now this is theoretical on my part, but like I said, the people that I talked to that actually experienced this, then I had to fill in the blanks of the theory because nobody's talking about this in the Far East anymore. But it was I filled in the blanks that were taught to me by my Lama teacher. They taught me all this information, so I had to fill in the blanks of what they were telling me about what I was and then what I was taught. What happens is that those two circles will now telescope, and there'll be many circles in front and behind, and that's what happens when you're in divergence anyway. Is that you can either go they talk about time travel, but it's really a divergence in space travel. You're traveling in space, but it would be in time, but technically it's not really time. It's really traveling in space. See, time and space would be merged in this whole idea. So we don't really want to talk about time travel because that's a confusing concept nowadays. They don't really know what they're talking about in terms of time travel because it's not if you listen to any time travel discussions, it's just confusing mishmash. They're not really, and mine might be confusing mishmash right now too. But when we repeat this and it's the same thing, it's not really any different. Then you're going to see how simple this becomes because what the idea is when the pictures and imagery when we get to that two circle level could turn into homogeneous light. It might turn into light. It might make everybody really nervous too. But anything you visualize when it turns into light and you come back to the convergence of your physical world, it should change into your vision. So, in other words, if you don't like anything that you're doing or anything about yourself, and you have a vision of yourself or where you live or the things you have and you want, this whole concept should manifest right away in terms of the creation because we're already creating our world around us anyway, automatically. So remember, everybody, the first 9 minutes should be just a 9 minute viewing only, and anything we're talking about today is over and above past that. But then when you have a lot of time on your hands and you're really wealthy, you might want to engage in this. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because it's the truth of the matter, the methodology to create things and what's really happening. Well, any type of divergence could make a creation. Like when you diverge the bindu for the first time in the diamond of health, when you see the white diamond, see if you can point out do you have the little arrow thing that you point out with sometimes? Okay,
Yeah.
now, all right, now point to that this arrow. I can't show you the diamonds. Those two white diamonds there on the left side, right and left side.
Right, yeah.
Now what happens is the white diamond is that one there and the one on the left. There's one on the left, right? Okay, those when those two come together in convergence, that's the diamond of health. So you're doing this is called a Reb divergence. That's a reverse convergence is what's going on. So when you get this, it's really easy. So a reverse divergence will cause the second step. The first step's Bindu, and then when you do the divergence of the Bindu into a Reb divergence, what happens is you're now seeing the diamond of health. You'll see this pristine white diamond becomes one. Those two diamonds become one in the middle, which is really cool when you see that. Now, in that divergence, essentially, if you brought it back to convergence right away, you might be able to manifest things. It depends on how powerful you are in terms of your visualization. Like we said before, each individual is a minimum of about 10,000 suns of power. So we're very powerful because we are creators. So the first, any divergence and coming back to convergence could cause a creation because that's how we're doing it. It does, in other words, it does cause a creation, but I don't know what level because remember, we have the five levels that I've explained in terms of the two circles on the outside. Now you're talking about, I call that the portals of travel. The fourth is cocoon of wealth, and number five, those two portals are called the portals of travel. Those are specific titles for each level. So the portals of travel means you can actually travel physically in those because I've had people experience that and have told me about it. And then I explained what was going on with that. But they were very frightened about it. They didn't want to hear any more.
So the portals of travel are when you separate the Bindu or when
That's
you separate
right.
the whole yantra.
Yeah, when you separate the whole yantra, becomes the portals of travel. It would be like if you separate the entire room that you're in now. The guide to it is the yantra is really a guide to separating your without the yantra. You're separating the room that you're in completely. That would be a complete divergence of your creation, which would make you very nervous because if you're diverging your creation, you're diverging everyone's creation. So now people get really nervous about this. But see, the idea is it's the truth. It's the truth in the matter. So I'm explaining it for better or worse or indifferent. It's really the truth of the matters. And that idea that divergence is there's, like I said, the number five is the portals of travel. We could actually travel without a vehicle, but we'll still be creating a light vehicle at the Omnivergence Institute because it's our responsibility and manifestation to create um, intricate or advanced vehicle travel is our responsibility physically. At the same time, the dynamic and being able to do it our own self without a vehicle can be our dynamic of travel. See, we can do both. Because we have a vast range of skills, the skills to be able to do this portals of travel with the Yantra, plus make a light speed vehicle in the Omnivergence Institute, if you people will subscribe. Another pitch, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because
Okay.
yeah, we want to say goodbye.
Yes. So
Goodbye, arrivederci Roma. Goodbye, goodbye to Rome.
thank you for
Mike,
watching. Please share, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
okay, bye for now.